Starting off this countdown, we have experimental electrical stimulation. Taken in 1856, this photo shows a man undergoing an experiment with electrical stimulation. And by the looks of it, it was quite painful. So back then, they would use the stimulation for a number of reasons. 1, to manipulate and experiment on one's nervous system, and 2, to treat certain diseases and disorders. Nowadays, this treatment is much safer. They use it to help with injured muscles or manipulate nerves to reduce pain. But back then, they were still trying to get it right. So it makes you wonder how many people underwent these painful experiments, and how many people were accidentally killed before they found the correct voltage to use. In our 9th spot today, we have the lipstick killer. And if you're liking this video so far, then smash that like button because it really helps us out. William George Herons was an American criminal and potential serial killer that confessed to be the lipstick killer. The lipstick killer was someone who took the lives of a number of women and would often leave a creepy message at the scene of the crime in lipstick. That's how he got the name, Lipstick Killer. The photo I'm about to share with you was a creepy message that he left at the scene of one of his crimes in 1945. He wrote, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." Now this message is creepy for a number of reasons. First, you got a man on the loose who can't control his impulses and he just admitted it. And second, look how creepy it just looks with the lipstick smeared everywhere and such. It took the police 6 more months from the time this message was written to finally catch William. This photo is just a scary and dark reminder of the horrors this man committed. Moving on to number 8, we have the poverty. This photo from 1948 shows just how bad poverty was in the 1940s to 50s in America. This is when the poverty rate was at its highest. In this photo, Mr. and Miss Ray Shalafo were facing eviction from their Chicago apartment. They were so desperate for money that they had to sell their kids. Now this photo was a staged photo, but it still shows a heartbroken mother not knowing what else to do. Within 2 years, all 4 kids were sold into different homes. It also sheds the light on how different laws were back then. Nowadays, that is very much illegal to do. Anyways, this is a very heartbreaking photo. Like, I can't imagine what that family went through. Moving on to number 7, we have the nuclear shadow. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The bomb was so powerful that people up to a mile of it were vaporized. All that was left of them was their shadows burnt into stone. This is a creepy image that shows one of the bomb's victims. It's a silhouette of an elderly man or woman with a cane. So the bomb's light and heat were so powerful that it bleached any exposed surfaces. In this case, the person's body shielded that part on the sidewalk, and that's why an imprint was left there. All around Hiroshima, there were multiple of these body outlines. It's very disturbing and sad. It just shows their final moments alive. In our 6th spot today, we have the Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment set out to explore the psychological effects of imprisonment. It started on August 14, 1971. A university psychology professor gathered a bunch of student volunteers and divided them into groups. 11 were assigned the role of guards and 10 were assigned the role of prisoners. It's going to be a 2-week experiment where the volunteers would play their part in a make-believe prison. But the experiment had to be ended after only 6 days. The volunteers got way into character. Some guards turned sadistic. They really exercised their power over the prisoners, whereas many prisoners became depressed and showed signs of extreme stress. The study and this creepy photo provide a chilling look at what humans are capable of. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Wild Man suit. Not only is this a dark photo from history, but it's also a very mysterious one. This suit that you're seeing is what historians named the Wild Man suit. It consists of a double-layered set of armor covered in 1-inch long iron nails. What was it used for, you may ask? Well, no one knows for sure. One popular theory is that it was used during bear hunting in the 1800s, or it was used in bear baiting. Don't know if that's true, but it looks very uncomfortable to wear. Maybe it was a twisted torture device. The executioner would wear it and then give the prisoner a nice big and tight hug. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but either way it's messed up. In our 4th spot today, we have the ruins of Hiroshima. Here is another very scary and sad photo taken after America dropped a bomb on Hiroshima. The bomb had an explosive yield equal to 15,000 tons of TNT. In fact, it destroyed 5 square miles of the city. This photo shows the ruins of the once beautiful city. Buildings and wildlife were completely destroyed by this bomb. In fact, the US remains to be the only country to ever use an atomic bomb in war. It had a huge lasting impact on the city that we should never forget about. In our 3rd spot today, we have the Titanic. On April 15th, 1912, the infamous ship the Titanic began to sink. 1,500 passengers sank with the ship after it hit an iceberg during its maiden voyage. The few that did manage to survive fled on lifeboats. This is a picture of the last lifeboat approaching the rescue ship. You can see it was crammed with passengers as all the lifeboats were. This photo serves as a reminder of this great tragedy in history and all the innocent individuals that were impacted by this disaster. In our second spot today, we have the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. In 1906, San Francisco was hit with a massive 7.9 magnitude earthquake. It has since garnered the title of the most powerful earthquake in Northern Californian history. This earthquake not only caused homes to come crumbling down, but it also started a number of fires throughout the city. Hundreds of fires started as a result of the broken gas lines. These fires went on for 3 days, engulfing 500 city blocks. More than 3,000 people passed away from the earthquake and fires. 20,000 buildings were destroyed and 200,000 citizens were left homeless. It was very sad and tragic. This is a photo from this devastating time. This was after all the damage was done. People lined the streets and just stared at the destruction that the earthquake caused. And in our number one spot today, we have the American buffalo. Now this photo is absolutely heartbreaking. This was taken in 1892 Michigan, and that is an actual mountain made up of buffalo skulls. That means thousands of buffaloes were slaughtered. No wonder why the buffalo population is considered near threatened and are at risk for extinction. So these skulls were then ground down to be used in making bone china or refining sugar and producing fertilizer. It's said that around the end of the 18th century, there were between 30 to 60 million buffaloes on the continent. When this photo was taken, the population was at only 456. They literally slaughtered millions of buffalo. What makes it worse is that some of the buffalo were killed purposely just so that the indigenous individuals were deprived of them.
Starting us off with number 10 is the foot. I know you guys probably think starting off with a foot is super anticlimactic, but after hearing the story behind this, you'll 100% change your minds, I promise. Now, Mary Reeser lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, and on July 2nd, 1951, a picture was taken of her that still has zero explanation attached to it till this day. Mary's landlady came to deliver a telegram and noticed the doorknob was oddly hot. She called the police, and when they got the door open, they found Mary's remains, aka a pile of ash, and all that was left was part of her left foot that strangely still had a slipper on, and her backbone and skull. What didn't make sense was the fact that even objects near her had lost their shape, but her foot was still in perfect condition. The room showed no evidence of a fire taking place in it, so how on earth did the place she was sitting in catch fire and her body burn, but nothing else was affected? No fire damage, not even smoke damage. Apparently Mary just spontaneously combusted, but her left foot didn't. I don't know, whatever that left foot has, I need it too, because I'm not trying to die anytime soon. Now coming in at number 9 is the little boy. Now I listen to a serial killers podcast quite often because A, I like to know what's out there, and B, I find it interesting, so clearly I'm psycho. But anyway, one of the episodes was on the Candyman. Dean Cole, aka the Candyman, was a serial killer that kidnapped, tortured, and raped and killed at least 28 boys in the early 70s in Houston. Dean had 2 teenage accomplices that helped him lure the boys in, and who made the boys trust going with this grown-ass man because 2 other teenagers were there too, so made the whole thing less sus, I guess. Now thankfully Dean is dead now, but in 2012, 40 years after his killing crusade, a photo was found in one of his accomplices' possessions. The photo was of a little brunette boy handcuffed to some bar, and that wasn't that weird since they tended to take pictures of all their victims, but here's the catch. All 28 of his victims were identified, and this boy wasn't any of the original 28. So who the hell was he? And what became of him? I feel bad for his parents who will probably never get closure on where their son went. I feel like we should make this go viral just so they can see it and be like, okay, I think our son was killed. At number 8 we have the healer. This one is just creepy and odd on so many levels. So back in 1975, Diane and Peter Berthelot, I don't know, they went to the Worstead Church in Norfolk. Now at the church, Diane sat down to pray and Peter captured a photograph of the moment. A few weeks later, when Peter got the pictures developed, he saw something very bizarre. On the bench behind Diane, there was this ghostly white figure looking to her left. It seemed to be bald with a Voldemort looking head and just all around creepy. When the couple went back to the church, the vicar told them he thought perhaps it was the ghost of a healer who haunted the church, but apparently the apparition had never been seen until now. So was it a ghost? Is he who shall not be named making his 4th comeback? I need answers. Who is this white egg? Filling our number 7 slot is the finger. We as a species have been hearing about the possibility of giants existing for the longest time. There are legends, there are real reports and stories, but in this picture there was actually evidence. Back in 1985, a photographer called Gregor Spory went to Egypt and met a grave robber, as you do, and he was in possession of a mummified finger. And that in and of itself doesn't really raise any alarm bells, but you'll be happy to know the finger was 15 inches long, and if you do the maths, it could only have come from a man that was at least 12 feet tall. After the pictures were made public, no one could explain them, no one could debunk them as fake. Until this day, almost 40 years later, it still remains a mystery. 12 feet, that's actually more than double my height. More than double, and then some. So we don't need people that tall in this world, no. No. They'll just step on me. Now at number 6 is the burning car, and in all honesty, I couldn't find any backstory for this photo whatsoever. It's a picture of 5 kids wearing Disney masks, holding hands, standing in front of a burning vehicle. Weird flex, but okay. Like, did the kids set the car on fire? Who the hell took the photo? Was it Daphne Duck? Was it a weird adult who was holding these kids hostage for their own sadistic means? I mean, I was thinking about this picture for a long time, and I was literally like that meme of that woman who has all those equations around her and she's like, that was literally me. Does anyone know the story behind this one? Please comment below if you do so I can die happy and so this doesn't plague me for the rest of my life. I just don't want that hanging over me. I'm sure you guys don't either. Coming in at number 5 is What's in the Woods. So this picture was taken back in August of 2013, and I don't really know anything about the picture other than a hunter had set up his camera in the woods and decided to leave it overnight to record. When he checked the footage the next day, he mostly saw woodland animals eating grass here and there or running past the camera. But at 4:03 AM, the camera captured 2 things: a deer running past the camera and a little boy or ghost. This boy or his apparition are in the background of the photo, but he's very clearly there. And I don't think it takes much to question why the hell a little boy who probably is 4 or 5 at best in the woods alone at 4 AM. Maybe this wooded area is near a neighborhood and this boy somehow left his house and got lost, but I feel like that's a long shot. Was he a ghost? Could be. But also, how? Why? What's his story? Answers, please. At number 4 is the South Tower woman. So this one is a bit of a touchy subject as it's about 9/11, but the show must go on, and it's actually 2 photos, not 1. Now the photos are of the South Tower of the World Trade Center on the day of the attacks, and in the corner of both, you can see a woman standing at the edge of the hall just waving. It turns out that woman is Edna Clinton, who somehow managed to survive the plane crashing into the building. Almost everyone on the floors where the plane hit died, but Edna miraculously survived somehow. People have no idea how she survived, and on top of that, she somehow even made it out of the building. Was it luck? Was it timing? Was it sheer fate? I don't really know. But everyone who has seen the image is perplexed by the same question. How? Filling our number 3 slot is the Falcon Lake incident. So personally, I'd never heard of this story before doing this video, but if you guys have, feel free to skip number 3. So this incident took place on the 20th of May back in 1967, and the affected was a Mr. Stefan Michalak. Stefan? Not really sure. Stefan, I'm just gonna go with Stefan. So Stefan had decided to take a vacation and was walking through Whiteshore Provincial Park to look at the veins of quartz near Falcon Lake. As he was approaching the lake, he saw 2 cigar-shaped objects descending from the sky right towards him. One of them landed near him, the door opened, and he heard voices from inside. He tried to communicate with whatever was inside, but no one responded. Then, as the story goes, he was investigating the colorful glass that was surrounding the object, for a grid-like exhaust vent expelled some gas and burnt him. The burns were on his stomach area, and it was just a bunch of small circular burns arranged in a square. Now in the picture, Stefan looks like he's near death, which I'm pretty sure he wasn't, but the whole incident was classed as one of the most well-documented UFO stories in Canada. But on the other hand, many skeptics refused to believe Stefan's story, claiming he was probably just drunk on his walk and something happened to him after that. Other people even think he put hot coins on his stomach to create the burns just to match his story. No one will truly know the truth except Stefan, and I'm pretty sure he's dead now because in the photo he was like 70. And that was like a long time ago. R.I.P. Stefan. Now at number 2 is Our Lady of Zaytun, also known as Our Lady of Light. Now this was a mass Marian apparition that was seen in Cairo for like 2 or 3 years back in 1968. Now the first time it was seen by a mechanic who worked opposite St. Mary's Coptic Church who thought a woman was committing suicide by jumping off the church. 2 other people actually corroborated his story, and so they called the police. A crowd started gathering around the church, but police dismissed it as a weird reflection of light. The crowd refused to believe them and stayed watching the apparition, and the same thing happened a week later and then more and more frequently. Police had no explanation for it, there was no projection device within a 15-mile radius, and no Photoshop or manipulation was involved in the photos. So we have no idea why this apparition kept appearing, if it really was an apparition or if some light projection prank was just executed really damn well. I don't know. So how can I tell you? And finally at number 1 is the pyramid, and this picture is the worst quality you can possibly imagine, but it was taken in the early 70s, so I feel like we can just sweep the quality under the rug. So the photo was actually taken by Apollo 17, which was NASA's Apollo program's last mission. They started off on the 7th of December 1972, and as they were near the geophone rock, they took a picture that was later listed as blank in the Apollo 17 photographic index. Now the original image is so hazy, but even in it you can see a pyramid structure in the landscape, and when analysts adjusted the contrast levels you can very clearly see a pyramid type thing on the moon. And if that's the case, why has this not been properly talked about since the 70s? I mean, it's been 50 years, come on people, there could be a pyramid on the moon and we're just sitting here like clueless ninnies. But also, so many missions have been to the moon since then, so surely if this really was a huge discovery, many more people would have seen it too, or at least said something about it. I don't know, I'm curious and I'm confused. Like me the whole video through.
Starting off this countdown, we have the wildfires in Greece. Greece has been experiencing the worst forest fires the country has seen since 2007. In 2007, they hit record-breaking temperatures and experienced a terrible drought, which caused a number of fires to break out. As a result, 270,000 hectares of land was destroyed. And now it's happening all over again. Since early August of 2021, a number of wildfires have been threatening Greece. Thousands of people have evacuated. Dozens of homes have been destroyed, and thousands of miles of nature and wildlife have been destroyed. It's very devastating, and a part of why this is happening is climate change. We are experiencing hotter and drier weather conditions, which fires thrive in. This is very concerning to scientists. In our 9th spot, we have the hut on the moon. Just recently, China's Yutu-2 rover, which landed on the far side of the moon in 2019, has spotted a weird object lurking on the moon. On the horizon of the moon, it spotted a cube-shaped object that looks like a hut. So it was given the name the Mystery Hut. Images of this mystery hut have been uploaded online, and people believe that this is an alien-created structure. Even satellite images from above have picked up this hut as well. For now, the rover is headed closer to the hut to get a better look at it. But the rover isn't the fastest thing out there, so it's gonna take a couple of months to get there. That means for months, we'll be wondering what the heck this structure is. Moving on to number 8, we have the toxic foam. You see all that white stuff floating in the water beside the people? No, this photo wasn't taken in a very cold country, and no, that is not ice or snow in the water. That is a highly polluted river in Delhi. It's so polluted that it's covered in a snow-like toxic foam. This was a result of illegal dumping of industrial waste and untreated sewage water. For years, the government has promised to clean the river, but they never have followed through with this promise. It's actually very dangerous to humans. That foam is very toxic. Again, this is a huge concern to scientists. It shows the destructive habits of humans, and we are now suffering the consequences. Moving on to number 7, we have the river filled with waste. Pollution is one of the biggest global killers. It's affecting over 100 million people. On top of that, over 1 million seabirds and 100,000 sea mammals are killed by pollution every year. Take a look at this next photo to understand the severity of this problem. This is the Lim River in Serbia. In January of 2021, heavy rain caused their waste systems to fail, and as a result, Serbia's rivers were flooded with waste. To clean all that up could take months, even years. And think of all the sea mammals affected by that waste. It's very depressing looking at this photo. Coming in at number 6, we have the body's location. Okay, let's take a break from all the depressing pollution and climate change talk and move on to something pretty eerie. Someone on Facebook posted that they found this on the underside of their desk. It reads, "The truth is under." This was written inside of one of the desk drawers. When you look under that desk drawer, it says, "The body lies at," and then it lists location coordinates. If you look up the coordinates, some sort of target range pops up from the satellite view. Now, someone actually emailed the county sheriff's office and they said their criminal investigations unit was working on it. He also warned people not to go out to the spot by themselves or at all. Apparently, a couple of years ago, there was this 4chan thread where a guy said that a prize was at a certain location and someone went out there and they were never seen again. So yeah. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the surfer. Here's another photo that sadly captures the world's pollution problem. This photo features surfer Didi Surinya catching a wave in Java, Indonesia. You can see instead of the water being crystal blue, it's filled with litter. Now, this place is said to be the world's most populated island. Not only that, but scientists have said that Indonesia has among the worst water quality in Asia. This is due to the fact that many cities don't have proper trash collection, so the waste ends up on the street or in the water, or it's on the street and then it gets blown into the water. Coming in at number 4, we have the flooding. A number of major cities are sinking due to sea levels rising and climate change. In a couple of years, these cities will be uninhabitable and largely underwater. Take Jakarta, Indonesia, for example. Jakarta is said to be the world's fastest sinking city. North Jakarta has sunk 2.5 meters in 10 years and is now sinking 25 centimeters a year in some parts. Research shows that by 2050, 95% of North Jakarta will be submerged underwater. In fact, currently almost half the city is now below sea level. Many buildings are already being flooded. They have tried to repair these buildings from the floods, but they just keep getting damaged from the floods. Now, the Indonesian government actually has a plan in place to move the capital to Java to protect the 10 million residents, but this move would take 10 years and cost $33 billion. But it's not just Jakarta at risk. Major places like New York, Florida, Fiji, New Orleans are also at risk as well. Coming in at number 3, we have the Yellow River in Mongolia. This river is so populated that it's almost impossible to breathe near it. It's also extremely hazardous to swim in or to drink. But here's the thing. It used to supply water to millions of people in the north of China, until recent years when it got polluted with factory discharge and sewage. 1/3 of China's Yellow River is now poisonous to drink. Only 16% of the water is safe. If things keep going this way, soon the entire water supply will be unsafe. In our second spot, we have the Amazon rainforest. Over the past 30 years, 15% of the Brazilian Amazon has been destroyed. This is very problematic because this forest alone supplies 20% of the world's oxygen. And nowadays, more and more parts of the rainforest are being burnt down or chopped down. The main cause of deforestation in the Amazon is the need for more farmland. A couple of years ago, cattle ranchers set the Amazon on fire to illegally clear land and then expand their business. Cattle ranching has caused 80% of the deforestation of the Amazon. However, because of climate change, the Amazon is getting drier. So when they burn down the land, it spreads uncontrollably. In 2019, almost 1 million hectares burnt down. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Kenyan drought. Now, this is a very upsetting photo, but it showcases the reality of global warming and climate change. In December of 2021, a prolonged drought in northeast of Kenya caused the death of a number of animals and livestock. This is a photo of 6 giraffes who sadly passed away due to this destructive drought. The area only received 1/3 of normal rainfall since September. This photo really gets to me. Like, look how destructive humans are. Our actions are killing our home, this planet, and animals are suffering as a result.
Kicking off our list at number 10, the reindeer gift. We'll turn the clocks back to 1941 right off the hop. When the Germans were attacking the Soviet Union, it was of course one of the biggest attacks in history. Britain and the United States had to send over weapons, supplies, anything really just to keep them afloat, just to keep them in the fight. Now they sent these supplies through the Arctic Circle, that was the only route, but of course it was littered with U-boats, you know, war stuff. So thankfully the British HMS Trident was there to watch the waters, and in turn the Soviets were able to fight on. As a gift, as a thank you rather, the Soviets sent the captain of the Trident, they sent him a live reindeer that the British of course had to accept because it was ill-mannered if you don't. So they had to keep a 6-foot tall, real-life living reindeer on a submarine. Must be comfortable, awesome. Imagine the smell. Her name was Pollyanna and they brought her on board through a torpedo tube. She was tiny, she's the cutest little thing. She was a crew member for 6 weeks, which is honestly hilarious because you know some of those guys got way too attached, you know for sure. She slept better than most, if I'm being honest. She shared her room in the captain's quarters. Again, imagine the smell. I don't know, is it worth it? I've always wanted a baby goat growing up, so this is kind of the closest thing. I'm jealous, I'm weirdly jealous. Number 9, Stalin Photoshop. Deepfakes are getting out of hand. I have no idea what's real or what's fake anymore. To be honest, I'm not even Taylor. I'm actually Olivia doing a list right now, but it's been deepfaked so well that you believe it. Modern technology is really making it hard to tell what's real and what's not, but it goes back. Back in 1939, a photo of Stalin was published, and he looks normal. He actually looks kind of great. Some would say he looks way too good. You know what I mean? He was touching up photos as far back as 1939, just airbrushing, just digitally removing all those zits and stuff. Like really? That far back? But even if you got a photo with Stalin, there's a chance that you yourself would be digitally removed. Like Nikolai Yevtsov, for example, the leader of the NKVD. He was in a photo with Stalin, but around 1937, Nikolai was responsible for orders that had over 1 million people arrested, so it wasn't ideal to be in a photo with Nikolai at the time. So he was denounced, imprisoned, and he died in 1940. So Stalin had him digitally erased and replaced in a photo. That's pretty hilarious. I don't know, this man was ahead of his time via Photoshop. How did he do it? How did they do it? No one knows. Number 8, Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Nice, I remember this one. I heard about this on LimeWire. That was cool. Heard about that at full volume. This was a huge presidential scandal. Back when you know, didn't happen every other week and stuff, this was a big deal. It was 1998 and Clinton's White House intern Monica Lewinsky was 22 years old at the time. Yeah, young. When you think back to all this old history, you're like, oh, they were this. No, very young, extremely young. They had a from 1995 to 1997, despite what LimeWire told us. Lewinsky said she hooked up with Bill 9 different times at the White House, and apparently, according to her schedule, Hillary Clinton was at the White House for at least 7 of those times. She's like, what's going on in there, huh? Is that my... Who is that? Number 7, adhesive bras. We'll liven this up a little bit with some vintage history it's kind of funny. It's pretty funny. Let's talk about sticky bras, shall we? What a mess this was, oh my. Back in 1949, Life magazine released an article that caught everybody's attention, obviously. This was news, this was like a new technology that was being announced. It was May 16th, 1949, and the article read, for 5,000 years, clothes have been draped, tied, buttoned, pinned, and buckled on the human form. This year, for the first time in history, drumroll, they will be glued on. What in the world? How? This is witchcraft. How did that happen? Just 1, 2, that's it? That's easy. Inventor Charles Langs changed the game, or he thought he did, in 1949. He made these bra cups that would stick to you with adhesive. This, you know, special glue. This special glue. This specific adhesive was promised to leave behind no residue, it was supposed to be painless, yet at the same time stay glued on even if you were to jump into a pool from a 10-foot diving board. That was the sell. Yeah, well that's not true, that's definitely not true. Well, Langs ended up selling the company to Textron later on and the product ultimately failed. Number 6, nuclear site list. Alright, back to the dark stuff. Here on Most Amazing, we love lists, right? I'm not sure if you can tell. Smash that thumbs up, hit subscribe, yada yada, we love it. But apparently the US government also fancies a list or two. Who thought? Back when Obama was still running the show, a report was delivered to Congress, or rather it was supposed to be. The 266-page report featuring, you know, every nook and cranny about the US nuclear program. It was released publicly on the government printing office's website in draft form. Draft form, couldn't have been easier, just a casual PDF that shows us maps with stockpiled fuel used for nuclear warheads. Awesome, right next to your resume. Imagine that, so convenient. How does this even happen? I thought this type of stuff could never happen, right? Well, MIT professor John M. Deutsch said that these screw-ups do of course happen and it's normal, and this one here isn't a serious breach. I mean, it certainly sounds serious, but okay. We'll just have to trust the government. Number 5, UFOs in the ocean. This video here was leaked in the last couple of years. You've probably seen it, hopefully not. This would be a great day. The footage itself was recorded in 2019 in San Diego. Now the Pentagon has since of course confirmed its authenticity, and the UAP, the unidentified aerial phenomenon here, is sphere-shaped and it's flying at extremely high speeds. There's no exhaust, no propulsion system whatsoever. It's just a metal ball whipping by San Diego, and now we're questioning our beliefs, so that's fun. The sphere vanished into the water afterwards, into the ocean, and then was never seen ever again. Number 4, radar footage. Now normally when we see leaked footage, be it of UAPs or leaked documents, whatever, it's always the worst quality. Like that one, not the best, right? Not quite 4K. It's hard to believe when military footage is poor quality, right? Like how can we see photos of black holes and not even have a photo of a UAP yet, right? What's going on here? Well, Jeremy Corbell, he's here to help. Jeremy? What if he just walked in? That would be crazy. He's not here. That's insane. Jeremy took to Twitter in May 2021 sharing footage of US Navy ships being swarmed by UFOs. Like more than one. Sorry, UAPs. We're not gonna call them that anymore. Now this time we have radar footage, and that's pretty sweet. That's different. It came from the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Omaha. The 46-second clip was originally recorded July 15th, 2019. You can even hear people in the background reacting to what's happening in real time. You hear panic in their voices. These military personnel in the background, you can overhear them talking about how fast the objects are moving on the radar. So, seems very believable this time, right? It's not just a grainy footage. It's like a live reaction kind of. And if he's spooked, we're spooked, right? Number 3, Watergate. I have to include Watergate, right? It's one of the biggest scandals in US history. Right in the middle of 1972, there were 5 men who were all arrested for breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. It was clear that they intended on bugging the place, right? It was fishy, it was obvious, they looked like spy kids, right? They were up to no good. Now as the year went on, the election came closer and closer, and all of a sudden out of the woodwork comes this anonymous source who fed information to Washington Post that the Watergate bugging incident was a massive campaign of political spying and sabotage kicked off by none other than President Nixon himself. It was kicked off by his re-election and directed by officials of the White House. It was a whole planned thing. Now despite this information leak and it being reported to the news, Nixon was still re-elected. Now these men were clearly linked to a fundraising group for Nixon, but his administration just kept denying any involvement, right? That's the key. Deny, deny, deny. It wasn't until later that year in 1972 when reporters Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, they came forward and exposed everything. Now we got the truth. They exposed the administrator's role in the entire scandal, how they had an inside source, an FBI agent named Mark Felt. It was a whole thing. This ultimately led to Nixon resigning in 1974, the first ever president to do so. Yeah, that's how you know you got caught, when you have to resign. Know what I mean? Number 2, shadow brokers. Back in August 2016, a group named the Shadow Brokers were the talk of the town. And with that name, how can you not be, right? The shadow brokers would steal cyber weapons from an NSA hacking unit and then proceed to sell them online to the highest bidder. Now this sounds made up. This sounds like it's from a movie. This is crazy, right? Now these tools in question, these cyber weapons, they've been used by many countries and many not so great sounding schemes. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, you name it, these cyber attacks can happen anywhere, right? The 2019 ransomware cyber attack, that's one example. This incident was connected to the shadow brokers. So whoever this mysterious group is, it still remains a mystery and still sounds made up as shit. It sounds like a DC Comics villain. It's insane. And finally, number 1, motorized roller skates. We'll end on a fun one, because, you know, why not? This last one they've been working on for a very long time and we still can't crack it, right? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen working on this channel, so I gotta end with it. Motorized roller skates. What a nightmare this would be. Imagine if this worked out. Even Elon Musk would see this and be like, no, that's crazy. This photo was taken at the Sunoco station in Hartford, Connecticut. Now, context aside, this is an odd one. A guy with a briefcase is filling up at the gas station and he's wearing roller skates. That would look bad today. You would have SWAT teams rolling up if you saw that, right? It's 1956 and that futuristic looking man right there is Mike Dreschler. Now, at the time, he was working for a Detroit skate company, but he was very close to gas-powered skates. They would have cost around $250, which today is around $2,400. And its max speed was 17 miles an hour. Again, imagine that in the closing act of like a Mission Impossible movie. That's crazy. Now, obviously the public wasn't supposed to see this. They feared that it would encourage folks to get creative on their own and, you know, launch their way to work. So yeah, don't make rocket skates with gasoline. Thanks.